So I'm Dr. Laura Fryan. I help parents find more balance, more authentic connection, and help them live with more intention and in alignment with their deeper goals for both their parenting and their relationships and for just their lives in general. So I do want to let you know up front that my 4-year-old is here with me in the house. She stayed home sick from school today, and so she's listening to an audiobook, but we might see her come out, and I know that you all understand that. Okay, so today I wanted to talk to you about the top kind of 5 subconscious reasons we choose our partners. Early in my relationship with my husband, in that kind of those early honeymoon, super romantic stages of love, I remember telling him that I felt like we fit together like a puzzle piece, where the parts that were hurting and missing in me were so well complicated and healed by the parts that were hurting and missing in him. And that when we were together, we could do anything. That we completed each other. And it really felt that way. Now, in those early days of love, we're kind of blind to all of the bad things about our partners, all of the things that annoy us and might get under our skin. We tend to really overlook them, any negative traits, or even any negative traits about the relationship. And those early stages of love are really good at kind of making us unaware of maybe some of the harder things that are coming up in our future. That early stage, the romantic stage of love or the honeymoon stage of love, fades. And we all know that that's true. And it's supposed to fade. We can't maintain that type of intense romantic kind of feeling over time. It just is impossible. It's too much. And so as we got deeper into our relationship, all of those pieces where we kind of fit so perfectly together, those pieces started to emerge as points of conflict for us. I mean, it felt like we were puzzle pieces and we still fit together beautifully, but we were like puzzle pieces that, like, when they came together and those edges touched, those edges were like live wires, and when they touched, there were explosions. And that is the kind of the struggle or the conflict stage of love, if we're thinking about love in 3 stages. So there's the honeymoon stage, there's the struggle stage, and then the 3rd stage is the conscious stage, conscious love. And this is all coming out of the Imago model of relationships, and I'll put a link in to kind of link to some of that information. But in order to get out of that struggle stage and into the conscious stage, we have to understand why we chose our partner, and the purpose that they serve and that their relationship serves in our own individual personal journeys towards wholeness. And that's what I want to share with you today, is because we are drawn to people for a reason. We're drawn to the partners that we choose for a reason. And I wanted to share a few of them. So I'm going to share 5 today. And understanding these reasons and why they're there can really open us up to accepting the work that our partners are inviting us to do, work that will crack us open and invite us to grow and heal wounds that we've carried with us our whole lives, and that maybe our families have been carrying for generations. And we get to be the person who heals that for ourselves and for our families through our relationships with our partners. But first, we have to understand why we chose the partners that we chose. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons. The first 3 are kind of more surface level reasons that are subconscious to us, that kind of support the last 2 that I'm going to share. Okay, so the first one is that we look for people who are similar to ourselves. We look for people with whom we share commonalities and interests, and there's a lot of research to back this up. So it mainly has to do with the fact that when we have similar personality traits or backgrounds or values or experiences, we can share more mental and emotional space, and it creates this kind of instant feeling of intimacy with someone when we have those shared experiences or values or backgrounds. It increases our ability to feel like we have this deep knowing of the other person, and that finding that can be really attractive. to us. We also tend to choose someone who's very much like us in a subconscious effort to learn to love and accept ourselves. So if we are choosing someone who maybe is a perfectionist, who's super driven or motivated, or has some of these other traits that maybe make us a little bit hard to feel positively towards ourselves, we can sometimes be subconsciously choosing someone who's like that in an effort to feel more loving and accepting towards ourselves. We also, so the second one is familiarity. So we look for people who feel familiar and comfortable. It could be that they remind us of our family growing up, and so they might feel comfortable in that way, and I'm going to dig more into that in a minute. But it also could be simply that we are around them more, and exposure and kind of time spent together is a big predictor of whether or not a couple is going to get together. The more exposure we have to the person, the higher chances are that we will grow to like, accept, and eventually fall in love with them. And this is why so many relationships bloom during things like at work, at the office, in college courses, like maybe if you had the same major as someone and you see them in a few different courses over the course or of your college career, or maybe in a shared experience, like if you're both in a play together as an extracurricular, and you spend that time together, and it kind of works together with this similarity. You're in the office, the same company for a reason, you're in the same courses for a reason, maybe you're doing the same activity for a reason. So similarity and familiarity often work a lot together. And then the third one is that there's often physical attraction, kind of as its very ground, basic human level or animal level, is also important. This is often sometimes nebulous and differs from person to person, and is really informed by culture and cultural standards of beauty. And even anthropologically speaking, there are certain things that we find more attractive. For example, men tend to prefer women with long hair, and anthropologists believe that the reason for that is because your hair can be a health record. And so women, we might prefer women with broad hips for childbearing. There's kind of deeply kind of animal pieces to this, and there's cultural pieces to it. And it's a major factor in choosing our partner. And so then whether you call it chemistry or a spark, this often comes from some combination of the last, these three things, similarity, familiarity, and then that physical attraction all works together to create that spark. Now, there's a piece of it though that is less well understood and less talked about too. So those three are the kind of the most commonly understood reasons why our subconscious might drive us to choose a certain partner. The last two I'm going to be getting into are a little bit different, and kind of take things to the next level. Okay, so they go a little bit deeper. So the fourth reason, our fourth subconscious reason that we choose a partner is because they bring about in us, they make us feel a familiar form of love. So let me clarify what I mean by that. So we learn how to love in childhood, in our closest relationships. In fact, this is one of the most powerful aspects of the attachment relationship, the bond between parent and child that we form in early infancy and throughout our young childhood. This bond serves to keep us safe, as we all know, but it also helps us subconsciously form our internal working model of ourselves, of others, and of relationships. And these models inform the way we view ourselves and how we expect to be treated within the context of loving relationships. So when we go out looking for a romantic, intimate partner, we go out with this model of love that we learned in early childhood. And we go out looking for the person who is going to replicate those patterns and is going to help us feel loved in the way that we're used to, in a way that feels familiar. failure. So unfortunately, for most of us, while our parents were doing the very best that they could, they often have their own wounds that they pass down to us. And those wounds mean that the love we learn to expect and co-regulate within in childhood likely wasn't built completely out of generosity or compassion or kindness or consciousness. And so we likely came away from childhood with some sense of not being good enough or lovable enough, which means that when we go out looking for an intimate partner, we are subconsciously looking for someone who elicits within us that same not good enough, unlovableness, that unworthiness, whatever wound we're carrying. We go out looking for a partner who will bring that out in us. Now, we don't feel that in those early stages of love. We talked about the honeymoon stage. We don't feel that at all. We don't start to feel that until we're in that struggle phase. And it is the act of reconciling those feelings that brings us into the conscious stage of a relationship. I've been learning a lot about this. I learned about imago therapy when I was a graduate student getting my PhD in couple and family therapy, but I didn't have the chance to learn from someone who was an expert, and I didn't have the chance to experience it personally. And so my husband is so wonderful. He is so willing to do experiments with me and to engage in learning with me so I can better serve the folks that I work with, and so we can grow too. So we've been working with an imago therapist, and I've been learning this firsthand within my own relationship, and it's so exciting. I wanted to share it with you. So here's the fifth subconscious reason we choose the partners we choose. We go out and we look for the people who are uniquely suited to partner with us in mutual healing. So we go out looking for the person who's going to elicit this feeling of unworthiness, who feels familiar in terms of the love that we came to expect growing up. And we go out and we find this person with the subconscious knowledge that they are going to be perfectly suited to elicit that feeling and allow it to be healed. And that is something that's mind-blowing and powerful. And I want you to really think about what that could mean for your relationship with your intimate partner, your romantic partner, the person that you chose. So if that is true, if it means, if it's true that we went out seeking the person, subconsciously, the person who's perfectly suited to bring us to our highest self, to heal those wounds that we carry with us in childhood, what would that mean for you? What could it mean to do that and partner with your partner? And it's not like they're going to magically heal you and you're not going to magically heal them, but you're going to create a scenario of an attachment relationship that provides a secure context for that healing to happen. You're going to have to do some change. You're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to recognize when you're having childlike responses to kind of what your partner is bringing out in you, when that's hearkening back to when you were a hurting child, and then choose a conscious adult responses. And in doing that, you will heal. You'll heal those wounds, those fears of being unworthy or unlovable. In my case, the fear of being too much or too emotional or too sensitive. And so in my case, that's my deepest fear, that I'm too much and too sensitive. And I beautifully and wisely, subconsciously chose to partner with a person who is afraid of emotions, afraid of getting too deep, afraid of getting too close, and throws up a wall when too much emotion is coming at him. And so my work is learning to love myself and learning that I am lovable no matter how much or how big my feelings are. And his work is learning how to be safe and feel safe within, when those big emotions are coming at him. My work is also to learn to regulate so that we can co-regulate. I need to down-regulate some of my feelings in order to create a safe environment for him to be able to step in it with me. And so we all have whoever we partner with, we have these pieces that it's totally true. We are like puzzles. We fit together. And at the beginning, it's puzzles where we're like magnetically fused. And then in the struggle phase, it's like we're these puzzle pieces with live wire edges that elicit explosions. And then as we move into the conscious phase and we move towards more conscious coupling, having a really intentional, deep, intimate, and conscious relationship with our partner, we're fitting together in these puzzle pieces in exactly the spaces, the way that we need in order to be able to heal ourselves, and in order to create the context where healing of each other can occur. Healing happens within attachment relationships. If we're looking to heal ourselves, having a partner to engage in that process with, the growth is can be so much faster and so much more powerful. Okay, so those were the 5 reasons that we choose our partner, those subconscious reasons that we choose our partner. I'm just going to say them real fast in case somebody's hopping on. So there's similarity, familiarity, physical attraction, how we learn to love, the model of love that we learned in childhood. And the 5th reason, the most powerful, mind-blowing reason, is that we subconsciously choose the partner who is uniquely suited to partner with us in healing. Okay, so I have a question from Julie. She says, what if your spouse doesn't feel that they have anything they need to heal? This all sounds so complicated, and my husband also puts up the wall. You're not alone. So, Julie, most men in our culture and in cultures across the world are not taught how to handle their feelings or the feelings of others when they're coming at them. They are taught that anger is the only acceptable feeling for them to have, and that all other feelings, especially soft ones, must be shut down because they're not safe. Because if they have those feelings, or if they start connecting with those feelings, they will lose love. They'll be unacceptable and they'll be unworthy. That's the model that many men learn in their childhood. That's what we teach our boys when we tell them to man up or boys don't cry. That's what we're doing, and there's this legacy of harm that's been done, and not just to men. That legacy of harm harms women too. It harms our entire society when we limit the range of emotions that are available to men. And it makes it nearly impossible for us to be in a conscious relationship. So, Julie, I'm going to share an article that maybe will be helpful if I can find it. The Passion Doctor is helpful. And then this one too, I really love this article. It's a great synopsis. So I'm putting these in. I would just have your partner read them and just see what they think. When we ask our partners to change, it's a really vulnerable thing. It's hard to do. If they're willing, get yourself to a therapist. Most therapists help partners own their role, because that's a big piece of changing a cycle of communication, is owning your role. So if you can get them in, that the therapist will form a relationship with your partner and allow create safety so that they can acknowledge their role. And that really is like the thing that needs to shift. If a partner is having a hard time acknowledging their role in a conflict, it's likely because they don't feel safe doing so. So you can do the work of having a soft startup, of making sure that if you are approaching them on something, that you are softened and vulnerable, and that you frame the request you need to make in a frame, like in a kind of a bubble of love, and that you're not mad, and all of those things, kind of framing it properly. And then invite them in. But until they are ready to lower their defenses and look at the work and growth that they have to do, there's not a lot we can do. We can't make a partner change. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't use your partner and the unique gifts that they bring to your relationship to grow and heal yourself. So I really want to empower all of you who are listening and watching this, that we have a lot of power in these circumstances, and we do not have to wait for our partner to agree to to change, to take the first step. We can do that. So if we are, committed to staying with someone, we're in the struggle phase and we want to move more towards consciousness, we can lead the way to that. We can recognize when we're having a reaction that's grounded in a childhood wound and choose a different response. And oftentimes when we start showing up differently, the other person shows up differently too. That's one of the first rules of relational dynamics, that when we change, the people in our system change. And so by simply stepping into that place of feeling empowered that I can do this, I can be different, I can show up differently with within my relationship. I can recognize the patterns that I'm repeating from childhood, from the model of love I got growing up, and I can use my partner as my greatest healing teacher, as my guide who's showing me where I have room to grow. Because when we feel defensiveness flare up, or the same fight that we're having, over and over again, we have the same disagreement, your partner is wisely cluing you in to where your wounds are and where you have healing. And we have to take responsibility for that within ourselves. And hopefully, as we do that, your partner will agree to partner with that, because co-regulation is super powerful. It's a super powerful way to learn. But you can take ownership of that yourself, without anybody else having to agree to do it. You can own that. Let's see. If I divorced a long-term partner who helped me heal and become conscious, am I likely to seek a different partner to heal with area? Yes, that's such a good question. I love that. Yes, oftentimes we will continue fine-tuning our healing and seeking partners. We can also be re-wounded. So if you're within a relationship and you've done a lot of healing, you've healed with them, but the rupture of that relationship and losing of that relationship has kind of re-wounded you, or has wounded you in this new way, you might also seek a partner who will help repair that wound. And that happens a lot for survivors of sexual assault in adulthood. The sexual assault represents a significant wound, and we often search out partners who will help us heal that wound. So wounding that doesn't necessarily always happen in childhood. Oftentimes our primary model for love comes from childhood, but if we've been partnered with multiple people and we've kind of moved into that conscious stage, there absolutely can be new wounds that come out of that, like the rupturing of that relationship, that we then need to seek and heal too. Okay, yes, Julie, it is so hard when you're triggered and hurt. Yes, and so really learning to practice self-compassion and good, nourishing self-care in order to be able to stay present with that is so important. Let's see, Mary says, when I start holding strong boundaries, my partner got serious about healing himself. Things were very difficult for a while, but so much better now. Healing together is very intimate. Oh, you're so right. The intimacy that's generated in that's where long-lasting, like the long burn passion comes from. So many couples who have been married, for 10, 15, 7 or 10, 15 years are wondering where that passion is. When are we going to get that fire back? Where is that spark? That's where it is. It's that burn, that like long, slow, juicy burn comes from healing together. That's where you'll find it. That's beautiful, Mary. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Julie says, how do we start making those changes on your own? Really, it's about heeding the call of what your partner is inviting you to heal and grow and change. We're not talking about being a doormat to them. I'm talking about so when they spring up triggered, when you get triggered, when your defenses swell up, looking at those. What is going on for me? What is my soft point? What is my pain point there? What is the deep insecurity I have? What is the truth that I think about myself? What is my deepest fear about myself and my lovability? And how is my partner bringing that out in me? And how can I soothe that on my own? How can I know deep down that I am lovable and worthy of love and gentle treatment and compassion by the simple virtue of my humanity? And how can I go about knowing that? And for me, a big piece of that practice for me is a self-compassion practice. A consistent, gentle, compassionate holding of myself. That's been the most powerful thing that I've been able to do in my own self-healing. And then when we're talking about co-healing with our partner, asking for that and receiving it from my partner. There's a specific way that I ask him to hold me, and he holds me in that way, even sometimes when he doesn't even know why I need it. But when I recognize within myself that I'm needing it, we've been able to come to a place where he can kind of put other things aside and hold me in that way so that I can kind of be surrounded by compassion and grace. So that's what I need. But figuring that out for yourself is the first place to start. Let's see. I think that was our last question, and I don't want to leave my little one too long alone. So I think we're going to wrap up now, but I really loved getting to talk with you about this topic, and I think I'm going to talk more about it. So usually in Lunch Break with Laura, we go through parenting and then relationships and then taking good care of yourself. And so next week is a self week, but I think I'm going to keep talking about this way that our children invite us, our families, our partners invite us to self-healing and self-growth and self-actualization. So we're going to keep on this topic. So make sure you follow me. I think when you join, if you scroll up in the comments, there should be a button that you can click to get notified for when I go live, so you never miss one of these. But I love this. And if you have questions and other things you'd like me to talk about or speak to, please never hesitate to send me a message or pop in the comments here, and I will definitely add that to my roster for what these lunch breaks are for, or because that's what this is all about. I'm really looking to serve you. So if there's things you want me to speak to, please let me know. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go play with my kiddo, and you guys have a wonderful day. Hold yourselves gently and your partner gently, and heed that call. Heed the call towards healing. Don't just focus on healing your relationship, heal yourself in the process. And like Mary said, it's this beautiful thing when you manage to do that together. So I send that out to you, and I'm going to send you out into the world to go do that for yourselves and for each other. Bye.